You do not need any of that.
No, you see, they're good with me here.
They are.
You're ready.
All right, good evening, everybody. We have two purposes at tonight's meeting. The first is a special reorganization of our board. And we have met official compliance with this. And roll call, please.
All right. Kelly Moen.
Here.
Catherine Gamon.
Here.
Laura Gapsky. Nick Olson.
Here.
Nick Schumacher here. Sarah Schubert McCone.
Here.
Steve Olson.
Here. So first of all, we'd certainly like to welcome our two new board members, Catherine Gamond and Shelley Moen. Congratulations. We really all look forward to being part of a team that helps look at everything. It always makes our Superior School District the best that it is. We have a lot of work to do, but we're excited to have you on board, and
Thank you.
just a big welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the first is the election of officers for 25-26. You can nominate yourself, or you can be nominated by someone else. The first, I can preside over this particular meeting until, if you remove me, then I will hand it over to the new president. Okay, so the president will preside immediately after the election, the new president. So call for nominations for president.
I nominate Steve Olson for president.
Second.
Call for nominations of president. Are there any nominations for president? Hearing none, all those in favor of Steve Olson as president signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. I look forward to not only this position, but being part of our wonderful school system. Kind of humbling. I thank you a lot for that. Our next position is vice president.
I nominate Nick Olson.
Are there any other nominations?
Nominate Laura Gapsky.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, the two nominees we have for vice president, Nick Olson and Laura Gapsky. As per our policy 0152, and as per WASB, on the election of officers, when there are two or more candidates, you may go to secret ballot. So we will go to secret ballot. You will each get a ballot. You will fill out the person's name that you wish to be the vice president. Hold your ballot, hand it back to me, and then I will bring them to Ann. Ann and Amy will count them. Ann will provide me with the name of the person that has the most votes. It is a secret ballot. Thus, it stays secret, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Some of the elections before, the person that did not receive enough votes could ask to see the ballots or challenge the ballots, but that is not what the secret ballot is. So at this time, you have all of them in?
Supervisor.
You can take them probably into another office, please.
You do it in the other room?
Yes.
Oh,
It's secret, Amy.
okay, sorry.
It's
Thank you.
odd because
You don't have time to wait?
Mhm. Laura Gapsky has been elected as vice president.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Next, the nominations for treasurer. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Nick Wilson. Second if needed.
Do not need a second.
Okay.
Are there any other nominations? You gonna nominate somebody? Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, all those in favor of Nick Olson as our treasurer signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. School clerk, call for nominations. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Nick Schumacher.
Are there any nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Nick Schumacher as the school clerk signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Appointment of secretary deputy clerk. This one is either volunteer nominations. I nominate Ann Schultz as our secretary deputy clerk. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying Ann Schultz is our secretary deputy clerk, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Congrats, Anne. Thank you.
Appointment of representative to the annual CISA 12 convention. And or this person is the representative as well for CISA 12.
You want to give a little bit of a description for the new folk?
A CISA 12 rep? This is the Board of Controls, right? This is who sits on. So every school board has a rep who kind of represents each of the districts. In CISA 12, our state is divided into 12 different CISAs. And so that rep, do they have a virtual option or is it only in person?
There are a few times a year in person. I had to pass it on to Steve because it's on Tuesday evenings, I believe, still.
Okay, so I know that can be a challenge because it's in Ashland and
It is in-
it's Tuesday night, so,
And they did throughout the year offer it online now.
okay.
Yeah, I did virtual probably 3 times.
Oh, okay. It's good to stay connected to what's happening in our CISA with other school districts. I think they also look to us for many leadership aspects.
So amongst our board members now, does anybody want to volunteer for that position?
Been there.
I would, but I have a conflict on Tuesday evenings with another board obligation, so I would.
Nick's been there. I would nominate Nick Schumacher.
You got you one.
You said you attended some.
No, oh yeah, I went to
Yeah.
3 or 4 in person, yeah.
Okay. Is that a no, Nick?
Any other nominations?
Are there any other nominations? Nick has agreed to take
Thank
the
you, Laura.
position of CISA 12. Appointment of the delegate and alternate to the annual WASB convention, January 2026. Is there anybody that is interested in volunteering for that?
I am interested in volunteering as the delegate.
And this is to speak on behalf of our district's priorities when it comes to some of the legislative priorities moving forward to WASB. Is that an accurate way of saying it?
Yeah, so there's, 2 different ways, like definitely taking a leadership role if we wanted to do any resolutions ourselves like we have in the past, and then also bringing that in and sharing, everyone gets a packet of all their resolutions and voting on behalf of our board as one voice at that meeting at the state convention in January.
Is there anybody else interested in being the delegate to that convention?
We need an alternate too, right?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take that next.
I would volunteer to be an alternate.
Alternate, Sally? Is anybody else interested in being the alternate? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of Laura Gapsky as the delegate and Shelley Moen as the alternate to the annual WASB convention, January 2026. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Appointment of school board representative to the Scholarship Foundation Board of Directors. I nominate Sarah Schubert McCone. Are there any other nominations or volunteers?
I would volunteer.
All right, so. The ballot.
This one's secret too.
This one is secret too.
There's no alternate here.
There is no alternate to this. There's only one position.
This is highly controversial. So let's do it.
How many years? I don't think I've had to do this before.
Yeah.
I got a-
I was joking that we wouldn't need any more ballots.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's such a-
Who wants to be outside right now?
Miss this?
And tomorrow?
It's warmer in your area already. Sarah Schubert McComb will be the school board representative on the Superior Scholarship Foundation Board of Directors. I think there'll be a couple of people on to, Michelle Baden will probably be the first one. Congratulations. Board committee preferences for 25-26. You've all now filled out the document that I sent you and everything. I'll be going through these. We have a number of people that want to serve on the same committees, whether it be the first choice, second choice, or third choice. So I will appoint and then inform you prior to next Monday's meeting so that you'll know which committee that you will be chairing and then what other two committees you will be on. Okay. All right, final thing that we have to do in this reorganization, we have to look at the meeting schedule for 25-26. All provided with that in front of you. As you look at the dates, do you see any discrepancies, any issues?
I point out a couple things.
Sure thing.
One, you'll notice that a budget hearing is, that has to happen before the end of October, becomes our November cow. So that's a unique date to, normally we meet the first 2 Mondays, right? So you'll see that is on there as a different date, which means our regular meeting then will be the first Monday of November instead of the cow. We don't have, a cow in July, and you'll notice the spring break change. We won't meet during spring break, so there'll be a gap at cow and regular agenda. And then the Tuesday after spring break, and then the Tuesday after, not spring break, Tuesday after school starts, and then, the Tuesday after the Easter break, also a change. But that's not a problem.
That Tuesday the 7th will be voting night too, I believe.
Oh, is that gonna be a problem? Should we not do that,
I
maybe?
think that's a bad idea.
I think that is a bad idea. Should we go back to Monday? There's not a reason we can't do it Monday, right, Anne?
Well, I think because there's no school that day either. So for staff,
So for staff, if staff present, they just have to come back on a day off.
I don't like that either. What could be some other potential options?
We could push it to like the 13th and the 20th.
Yeah.
Any objection?
Fine by me.
All right, so let's make a change in the schedule then, Ann. The call committee of the whole will be April 13th, 2026, and the regular board meeting will be Monday, April 20th, 2026.
Catch Steve.
Yes.
Um,
Redemption. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to amend the Board of Education meeting schedule for 2025, 2026, specifically changing the date on April 13th, 2026 at 5 p.m. and for the committee of the whole, and changing the date for the regular board meeting, which includes closed section for April 20th at 5 p.m.
Motion and second to accept the amendment of the schedule for 25-26. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. We will now move to our regular committee of the whole meeting. This meeting is now called to order. We have met compliance with official notification. Roll call, please.
Kelly Moen. Catherine Gamon.
Here.
Laura Gapsky.
Here.
Nick Olson.
Here.
Nick Schumacher here. Sarah Schubert McCone.
Here.
Steve Olson.
Here. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for comments by members of the public during the meeting as indicated on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to address the board on any of the topics included on tonight's agenda may do so by signing up on the public comment sign-up sheet by the entrance to the start of the meeting. The board requests refraining from making any comments involving personally identifiable information about students, staff, or administration. Comments should be respectful, focused on the items being considered by the board, and will be restricted to 3 minutes in length. Do we have any speakers for this evening, Ann?
No.
Okay, we shall move forward. On the agenda, action taken at today's meeting is to forward the recommendation for final approval at the next regular school board meeting on Monday, May 12, 2025. So our first part of our agenda is comments of the public. We did not have any. The second is the report from our superintendent.
I have a handful of items. My informational items are several presentations from students and staff. They'll be coming to our meeting next week. So that will happen next Monday. And then I have 2 action items. I have 2 field trip requests. I have some folks in the room who I think want to speak to that as well. The first one is our annual overnight field trip with Mr. Horick to Washington, D.C. and New York City in the spring of 2027. So it's a great experience.
Hello, my name's
Mike, hang on a second. So action item first.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the overnight field trip request from Michael Horick for 8th grade students to attend Washington, D.C. and New York City during spring break of 2027.
Have any comments?
I got the floor. My name's Mike Park. I'm been 13 years at the middle school. This will be my 6th trip to Washington, D.C. Sarah Bianchett and Shauna Anderson started it about 10 years ago. Really built the program up really nicely. We've averaged about 50 kids every trip, and it just is getting better and better every year. Goes really smooth. We've got a great group that we work with through EF. They plan everything. They keep everything going really smooth. And I think it's been a great opportunity for kids. Any questions?
Please tell the newbies what EF is.
Oh, EF is Educational Frontiers. They're a tour company. They've got headquarters all over. But they're a tour company, and they plan everything. They get plane tickets, hotels, meals. They run everything.
They run the buses, the tour guides, everything.
Yeah. They've got 24/7 emergency contacts. They keep everything. Any problems we've ever had, they are on top of things, and they keep things going. Really
We
well.
usually run into other EF groups when we're down there.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a well. I mean, it's in a lot of schools.
it is. Yeah. Great program. I appreciate their hard work and everything they get done. And it helps me out. Any questions?
I know last year we talked about this a little bit, and I'm trying to rack my brain thinking about this, but I remember Brooke saying something, somebody did on the board. What real liability do we have as a school board on these type of trips? Is it something that we really should be approving, or is this just something that goes through the individual building, the individual principal? And then I even sometimes question, should the principal be doing, because it's not on
We're not
hours.
paying for
We're
it,
not paying for it.
but it's our students and our staff.
Right.
So I don't know how the
So-
districts do it.
So EF also has I think it's like $100,000 liability program that once you sign up for, it's, I don't want to use the term insurance, but liability. Any medical, issues on the trip, they take care, well, in the United States, it would be through the insurance. But they, get in there and would take people wherever they need to go. So I think they really take care of that.
Steve, is your question, President Olson, is your question more about like why these come to the board?
Yeah,
I
why
think
does this come to-
say- Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And I think that's been from the beginning, we've come to the board just to,
Transparency probably.
transparency, letting you know what's going on so that, there is that cooperation. I think, we've been really good about getting, subs for teachers if the trip runs longer. 2 years ago, we had to use the middle school, in order to get everybody organized because it was a huge group and we were leaving at a certain time. So, just that transparency and that cooperation.
And I don't want it, excuse me, I don't want it to be said that I'm not in favor of these. I just always wondered about our liability as a board on this.
Yeah, and a lot of it would boil down. We've had other trips over the course of time, and it depends a lot on what he's talking about, what the document is that underlies.
I think there's two different things. There's a liability piece, but then there's also, does this fit within the context of field trips that the board approves? I think there's two kind of separate things. What were you going to ask, Catherine?
That is the only financial impact to the district staff time.
Well, and they do it actually during spring break or summer. So you're doing it on your,
Yeah, 2 years ago, the group
Yeah.
came back on a Monday, and so we needed subs.
Yeah.
And.
but wasn't that because the plane was delayed or something? It wasn't scheduled that way, was it?
It was.
Oh, it was, okay.
So there's always a window, like I give them our spring break dates,
Mhm.
and there's always a window on either side that
Yeah.
they can say, well, we're getting you back this day. And it's worked out really smoothly. It's always only been one day, and I push for that to limit it to that one day.
thank you.
Any other comments?
I'll make a motion to approve if,
We do have,
just kidding.
we do have a motion and a second to approve the overnight field trip request for eighth grade students to attend Washington DC and New York City during spring break 2027. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Oh, and the other field trip request is regarding a trip in June of 26 to Greece. So I'll let you, well, first they'll need a motion first. So let's do that first.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second to consider the overnight field trip request for students grades 9 through 12 to attend Greece in June of 2026.
I'm Leah Gunderson. I teach at the middle school. I started being an EF group leader last year. I was a chaperone with Mike on the DC New York field trips, probably with Sarah too. And there was a lot of interest in international travel. So I looked into it through the same company. We went to Italy last year. We had a group of 48. A number of parents came with as well. And we're headed to Peru next month. Again, I have a few parents, a first dad that's coming with. We have a dad-daughter group. Same kind of liability. There's a $50 million general liability coverage, and I put that on this application as well. We did have to use it in Italy. We had an issue with a traveler having her plane ticket, and the EF covered us, and me and her had to do just an extra night in Paris, and they covered all the expenses, and it was really easy to work with. I try and take some chaperones that are experienced, and then also do it in the summertime. They don't have to miss school, have them back before the 4th of July, and then like a lot of those sports start up in July. So talking with family is what works best for them. And that was the consensus of June.
Are you concerned that this is less? No, this is a year away, so
It's a year away.
is there enough time to earn money?
So I want to start planning it a little bit more in advance because last time I did it in September. So they have from September to like end of this month to make their payments. And if I can extend their payment plan, they'd have smaller payments. So I'm hoping to do a parent meeting by the end of this month. And they'd have extra 3 4 months, June, July, August into September for those smaller payments. A lot of interest in Greece. It's far, but there was just a lot of kids asking, what about Greece? What about Greece? And I'm like, okay, I looked it up. It's a travel one advisory, so looks very safe. So yeah.
That would have been my question. What about the travel advisory? So thank you for.
Yep, I looked it up and it's a level 1. So
Is this incoming freshmen or is it outgoing?
roll it out by the end of this month with our 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grades. And then I just hold an informational meeting. There's a QR code. Parents scan it if they want to sign up. No money would go through me. And again, I make it really clear to the families, like this is school supported. It's not sponsored. It's not sponsored through the school at all. So they're very well aware. It's supported, but it's not through our district. It's through the app.
I think that's part of our role too, is we're supporting the educational part of the travel.
I'll say I was in a different high school in Minnesota this weekend and I saw an EF poster in another high school. They were going to Greece, I think, really. I can.
Duluth is Proctor does, Hermantown does, and up the shore they use them as well.
I'd still be curious to find out if other boards are approving or if it's just something they advertise through the school, like that all the schools use, but it's not necessarily for a thing.
I'll look more.
I'd be curious.
I think maybe I'll ask EF if there's any. I don't know. Well, I'll talk to you guys.
Because if we're telling kids it's not a school, it's
Okay.
supposed to be banned.
Okay.
Why are we dealing with it at all?
Are the chaperones covered by the district or by EF?
Yeah, every 6 travelers, it's a chaperone spot. The domestic one is every 10. But
Great, thank you.
then with the parents that have signed up, our groups have been like 4 to 5 kids in a small group. Yeah, it's been really nice.
Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Leah. Next on our agenda are board committee reports. We have a smaller group this evening. Teaching and Learning Committee, Mr. Schumacher.
All right, no action or discussion items tonight. We have a few informational items. First up, Lori Dan, School Force Coordinator, School Force Update. Lori, blow us away as always. Where do you go?
No worries.
Everybody else has to follow her. Sorry.
So calm. Okay, so my name is Lori Dons, and every few years I just update the board on our school force program and what we're doing, and give you a chance to ask any questions if you have any about our program. So that is why I'm here tonight. Okay, so I think I'll try this one.
And I did give you 15 minutes, right? Not a half
I
hour.
haven't done less than an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm in this role. I feel comfortable here. I just really believe that immersion in the outdoors is an excellent place for learning. And that's what we try to do with the school forest program. That's my dad in the bottom. And I always have to say hi to Dad and thank him for getting me where I am. It's my first most important teacher in life and still is. So here's what we'll do in 16 minutes. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you this. This is interactive, everybody. Tell me first thing that comes to your mind when you think school force, and he's over here too. But just what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Mental health.
Mental health. Wow. Okay. Joy. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Nasty peanut butter sticks for bird feeders.
Oh, good one. Good one. Okay, so I love this because you're kind of picturing some of the activities that we do out there. A lot of people will say things like identifying trees. They will say things identifying insects, and they're very science focused. And one thing I wanted to impress on you tonight is that's part of our program, but it's a very little part of our program, honestly. It doesn't take any more precedence than any other part. So let me ask you this, outdoor education, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Exploration.
Exploration. Okay, let's just keep on going then, okay?
It's like hands-on learning. What's that word again? Experiential learning. Yeah.
Okay, good. And I bring this up only because I think there's this misconception that school forests are for environmental education only. And what we try to do is really outdoor education. And what outdoor education really is taking the content that we teach in our classrooms, whether it's math, music, writing, you name it, we just have a different setting. Instead of being in the classroom, we're doing that outdoors. So we'll try and give you a few examples of that. So this is how I identify outdoor education. I think it's similar to what you would see otherwise. It's kind of like organized learning, but it just happens to take place outdoors. So that's why I say outdoor education is really not what we teach, but where we're teaching it. So we're teaching the same content, same material in a little different way in the outdoors with our students. There we go. Okay, there it is. I put in too many animations. So here are some photos from our school course.
Oh, there she is, front and center.
There she is. We have our was not trying to butter up.
I know, I was like, wow.
I say it myself.
I know.
So every year we have our middle school and high school orchestras have a day of immersion out there. I'm happy to say that one of the greatest areas of participation I've seen in the past couple of years are our high school classes. So what they do use the site a lot for kind of a full day of immersion in their subject and some team building amongst and bonding between the class. So this is always a really fun day. It's almost magical when you're out there and you hear they aren't fiddles, you know what I mean?
Violin.
There we go. I was in band. It's literacy. So it's a great place to, I think, inspire and motivate our writers out there, and our teachers do just a wonderful job of using our site for writing. We do a lot of service work out there. Why does it matter? And it goes to what Laura was just saying, direct contact and experience. We call that experiential learning, I think, and the learning comes alive. So you notice that little salamander there, huh?
Lori.
We do that every day.
Yeah.
Every year we have this
Know where you're
time of
going
year
with
where it's kind of become a tradition where I trap salamanders and we do lessons on amphibians and stuff like that. So let's try that, shall we? Okay, I'm going to ask you to look at this. Here's some salamander information, okay? And right there you see the life cycle of salamanders. A lot of you know this. They're amphibians, spend part of their life in water, part of their life on land. Most common ones around here in northern Wisconsin are the blue spotted, yellow spotted. They have a red back, things like that. They like to burrow under leaves in the summer, turn over logs, you might find them. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, do you have a place just to write some notes?
You all right, Amy?
All right.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. I know what's happening here.
I'm going to ask you to read this. Introduce you to salamanders. Like if you're reading a textbook or whatever, you might read about salamanders and see some pictures about salamanders. There they are, some pictures, so just kind of focus on that a little bit. I'd like you to, and we're going to move quickly, so if you don't get them all down, that's okay. Just 5 things you see. You know, when you learn about salamanders, what you just read, what would you see? 5 things you see about salamanders. Maybe 4 things you feel. It could be an emotion. Could be physically, you know, sick, happy, slimy. Maybe 3 things you'd hear if you were around salamanders. couple things you'd smell. We usually say one thing you would taste, but in this case, we'll change that a little bit. So that gets kind of like salamanders. Kidding. It doesn't matter. I'll be right back, everybody. So.
Yeah, was she bringing it? Oh, yeah.
And we had a salamander day, so what we would do at the forest, just being outdoors and sitting on the forest floor, and
Hungry?
we have some salamanders. Who wants to hold one?
Nick does.
I'll hold it.
Let's do it. Okay. It's just ask you to spray your hands a little bit. Laura, maybe you could put a little squirt on mine too, because we learned that salamanders, they need to be kept moist, right? I'm sorry if I leave moss behind. There we go. Spray those little buggers down a little bit. Keep them nice and wet. Shelley, welcome. Would you like to hold a salamander?
Really, but I'll do
Would you give it a try?
I'll give it a
Give it a try, okay? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Fear factor.
Everyone get.
You're gonna have to eat it. Spray my hands.
There you go. Spray
Spray your hands.
just to keep the sound.
Oh, yeah,
a little moist there.
Oh,
Okay, there we go.
Was it?
While you're at it.
You've got a squirmy one, Nick. You're proud of it.
come on, everybody's doing it.
Okay, there you go. Welcome, Catherine. Here you go.
You take this for me once.
For you. Little different. We don't get to-
I won't stop moving.
Really?
Don't look in the eye, Amy.
Sarah, you okay?
What was it, Nick?
If you want, like, the hands on.
I was trying to call through my fingers.
Think you can speak.
Put it back in the bucket now? Are you ready? I'm so ready. Thank you. That was so fun.
Did you need yours?
All right.
It's really hot.
They don't have to do it, Lori.
What's that?
They don't have to do it. They're over here laughing. They should have to do it too.
This guy won't stop.
Somebody's here.
That was so fun, Lori.
What's coming?
Oh my God, you had the biggest one I've ever seen in my life. She did that on purpose.
Buddy.
Flashback.
All right. Yeah.
It's purple. It's almost purplish.
It's not as slimy.
It's not slimy.
Should I, do you want to hold them a while or should I flip them?
Maybe cost a burrow.
Okay. Got it? There we go.
You take.
Let's go there once too. Okay. Here's.
Really hot.
Good. Thank you, Nick. Some people like, oh, you have my big old fingers in your way there, Laura. Did you get it?
Sorry, buddy.
Here we go.
Washing hands?
Yes.
Well, I might say this there for 11. There we go. That was very. Okay.
So you lost your audience.
They're all leaving. There you go. Look at today. This one is called Stuffy. Clean that up. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, still doing fine. I think that happened a long time ago. So fun.
So fun. Here, you need a napkin.
Now, if I asked you to do this again, would you add to your list?
Yes.
Like if I asked you to do this again, would you add anything to your list? What are some things that you would now add that weren't there before?
Legally.
Wiggle,
Bump it.
squirmy, quick,
I'm trying to burrow, like I was
Yeah.
trying to get into my.
Yeah.
crevices.
trying to burrow wet. Okay. Okay. Did any of you feel hesitant to take that salamander to start with?
Amy?
Okay, so it's like, when you are handling something, when you're immersed in that learning out of a textbook, when that comes alive, the brain just starts going, the brain starts clicking, and you create an experience that's memorable. the next time kids learn about amphibians, what are they going to hopefully think of? So whenever a group comes out to the forest, one of the goals is teach the content, but create an experience around that content. And we know if we can do that, it's a little hard to read, but it says phone of learning. And then if you read that top left heading, it says after 2 weeks, we tend to remember. And then it breaks it down like 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear. If you go to the bottom of that pyramid, it's like 90% of what we say and do. And that's the power of active learning right there. Okay. So we like to use the school forest as either a place, it's just a place to build on what's happening in the classroom, to either introduce new ideas, reinforce things that are happening in there, or to follow up on something that was just previously taught as kind of a foundational summary of that. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Thanks for being good sports, everybody. Going back to the, if you were hesitant to hold one, what we find also is it might be like a little thing, but I do believe that experiences at the school forest build students' confidence. And not only their motivation, but their confidence, because there are a lot of students when they come out, big outdoorsy people. And I have to remember that it's a risk for them to go out there. And if we can support them, show them that it's okay. We never make anybody do anything that they aren't comfortable with, but almost always, just like all of you did, we see other people like, oh gosh, and I don't want to, I'm not going to do it. And then I'll give it a try. And we're always there to support them in that. And they leave feeling maybe a little bit more powerful or something. Okay, so a couple misconceptions I've encountered or that I will hear in my role is it's just a field trip. It's just a place to play. And the first thing I'll say is I think play is okay in learning. I think it's a great way to learn. But do know that it's a place where we do teach content. We do it in, I hope, a fun way for students in a memorable way. It is not just science. We have that up. And then the new one that I'm hearing is forest schools are becoming a really big thing in the world. And Wisconsin is so unique that we have the school forest program. Forest schools, as I would define them, are like full-time schools outdoors, in the outdoors someplace. School forests, you know what they are. They're these sites that school districts have. But what's so nice is they combine traditional types of learning with your non-traditional, and each support each other. They help build connections, I think, to content and what's happening in the classroom. We don't have to do this right now. But I do believe this, and I think you can look at this. I'm kind of into the brain science of what happens out at forest now, because something intangible seems to happen with almost every group of students that are out there. They're different when they leave. You just see this kind of bonding. You see a lightness of spirit, usually. Not every day is perfect, believe me, and I won't try to make it sound like that. But something kind of happens between those students and teachers and the content they're learning. And it's like, why or what? But I think that this gets into it a little bit. You're kind of getting that brain in a place that's ready to learn. I'll let you, I don't have to read that to you. I think we try to support students so they feel safe. These are just some images from this school year, I believe, of our high school students. This, I think, was our journalism class that was out there. The Spartan Spin came out for a day here. Once we have our emotions in kind of a positive state, then we bring in the content. So the first thing you want to do is get the brain in that positive, relaxed state. Then you start bringing in content learning, and research does show that when there's an emotional connection to learning, that content is retained longer in long-term memory. Okay, just going through a few pictures. And then finally, research shows that nature fosters the development of soft skills. We know when students are walking on a trail or sitting around the campfire or involved in an activity together, that conversation and discussion just seems more natural and seems to flow more easily than nothing against traditional classrooms, but when you're in that traditional seating of seats and a teacher at the front of the room or whatever. Okay, so Why does it matter? Academic learning with the long-term memory, physical health, we know they're moving around. And we research also shows the benefits, the mental health benefits. Okay, so there we go. Is that okay if I'm just flicking through these? Okay. All right, making connections. So the question I started asking myself is, how can we duplicate what happens at the forest in ways in the classroom? Like, can we make something similar happen? So with the support of the administration this year, we're starting this idea called 1+1 to Connect. And the idea is to encourage teachers to take one regular classroom lesson that they would teach outdoors one time a week. In the to connect, so it's one lesson, one time a week. The to connect is simply to build connections between the students and their content, the curriculum, to build connections between the content and the environment. And the third one would be to build connections between the students themselves, because that just seems to happen in a real easy way. So we introduced this to the elementary teachers, and the idea is if they do one of these lessons, I have a real basic form that they can write up or that I will do for them. We're starting like a Google file so that teachers, like, let's say it's a beautiful day like today, and they're like, well, I want to teach a math lesson outside. We want to build that so they could go in there quickly and say, I could do this outside today for an hour. Coming to the middle school and high school, so okay. There we go. So that's kind of the idea. These are some pictures of teachers who've done this year. I know Julie Turstig at Four Corners, Stacy Burfield at Bryant have been really good at submitting their ideas and lessons to us to help us with this. The other thing that I've set up is a Google Classroom page for teachers. I have to get a little more active posting of this. I get a little busy and forget, but what this is, it's teachers sign up as students, and we have different units in there that kind of correspond with different times of the year, different links and resources on different topics. And then some are just quick hitters like game camera videos, like here's something that happened this week if you want to show your students. And then some teachers will take that and give their students a writing prompt. Some will use it just as a quick coming back from recess, let's get everybody focused again or whatever. So it's another way just to take ideas from the outdoors and bring them, help teachers bring them into their classroom. Okay, in summary. I'm debating. This might be corny. I'm going to do it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Maybe corny.
Oh, we're gonna do a read aloud?
And do a little. So here's kind of how I see it. And I could be wrong. But let's say that our job as teachers is to teach the standards. Okay, and they're kind of like an outline of big ideas, right? So you got that outline there. And our goal at the end is we want our students to just fill those in. Mm-hmm. We want that content filled in, right? So give them the outline. Let's hope that we can fill it in. But then, like, I think of the outdoors, we still have that content, but I think that nature kind of frees the students up to let their imagination run wild. And so, those content, they're still there. They're still there. Their ultimate goal at the end is, let's get it all. Yes?
Yes.
For your time today, any questions about course or what we do out there?
Yes. How is, I was looking at expenses and reports, and how is funding going for the school florist? David?
What I don't know. I don't know. What we are doing is serious. What I can say, Crystal, help me with this giant. What I can tell you is this year we've had our highest number of trips in several years. Okay. So our transportation budget is pretty tight. Okay. And we get half of our transportation budget from the Hoff Foundation every year, and then the district manages or matches that for us. My salary is part of that budget. We have in terms of materials and resources, I would say relatively low. We try to do a big service project every year with our ninth graders. That's a tricky one because to get 300 students at the forest working for 3 days, you need big projects. So far we've been reaching out to the community to get money for that. So
Has David helped with some of that or have you done that on your? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
David gets the PR out there for us.
Okay.
There's the maintenance of the buildings. One building is especially old to our north. They're doing just fine, but one is pretty old. It's hanging in there, but you know, we put money into, I think, the septic. Last year, I think there was some big crack in that. Crystal, we want to add in?
I think one of the things that we're going to try to do more of in the future is see how my curriculum budget can help support some of the things if all of the students are doing this anyway. I guess the Old Palace is a good example.
There's certain, like, what do you call them, seven?
It's like like supplies that needed to, it's no different if you were doing that like a classroom in one of our schools. And instead of always just relying on donations, and can we make it work to be able to needs to do or is doing with the students, how budget, which supports all kids, help support some of that anyway. So that's, we're kind of playing with that a little bit this spring around some of the to see if that can be more of a partnership between the budgets instead of it just relying on donations.
Right. What we've been doing this year is very purposefully kind of record where are we spending money and on what, so we get kind of a handle on, you know, what is it costing us out there? Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Obviously the heat for the buildings and things like that. One of the benefits of being out there, so you know, like there's certain yellow pellets the kids love. We have purchased most of the big ticket items like way back then from donations like snowshoes and things like that. We have that. And so many of our resources are just nature. Let's go put some leaves. Let's do this, let's do that. There are a few that come up every year though that are popular activities out there that cost a little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't, you know, I was asking because I think it is rather such an asset and not all school districts have that. And it's valuable to learning. So I just want to hope and continue to find ways to adequately fund it. And it's helpful to know how mindful you've been, of course, with that budget.
It's also looking at this, like you said, this is an asset.
Mhm.
And I was going to touch on the school force, something I was going to touch on in part of my thing. We're talking about enrollment and trying to increase enrollment. The school force is something really unique that we have, that we have to leverage that to get out there.
Yeah.
And when Lori says the expenses, you know, are relatively low, the expenses are really, really low.
Right.
When you look at the budget that we have out there, and it's looking at ways, I know Pat has really leveraged because transportation is a huge expense to drive kids all the way.
Yeah.
He's figured out ways to piggyback rides. So we drop off the kids at the middle school, we go pick up some high schoolers and go to the school forest and they go park at Four Corners. And that's why we can significantly reduce the amount of transportation expenses out there. And Steve, who's the new buildings and grounds guy, I had to talk to them today. One of the priorities is to go out there and get a really good handle on what are the needs of the school force, because I do think that's something we really need to push to the future. So we can show that to prospective students, you know, may not be attending our school. Hey, you know, you're homeschooling in town, come to the Superior School District, your kids are going to be able to put a sound there.
The Hartley preschool, and it's like all outdoors. I mean, that is very attractive to
Even wondering
parents.
leverage summer school opportunities out there in the future.
Well, I know, it's funny you asked that because this past week, Jen Willoughby had a conversation, and not for this summer, it's a little too close, but starting to think about next summer, I think to do there, but
It kind of goes back to kind of those experiences that some of those kids are getting in Duluth. Models for that here.
And it's such a program that's recognized statewide. I mean, I'm thinking back 2 years ago at the state convention when the three of you presented and everything, and the ahs and the ahas, and
when I introduce myself to people at DPI, they say, "Oh, you have Lori." Like, yeah, she's kind of a celebrity.
No, seriously, no. But what I will say, what I want the board members to know is, from the bottom of my heart, the only reason this program is where it is today is teachers believe in it. Like I'm looking at Robin over there in your sixth grade team. And so it started very strongly with like sixth grade teams, as I recall. This was like 15 years ago in elementary. And I learned from those teachers every time they're out there, like, oh, I never thought of doing that way, or that's a great connection. You know, I might be kind of that in between person, teaching what I'm comfortable with, but learning from our teachers. And that's where Superior's force is a little different from what I'm hearing from so many in the state, because so many have a staff where the teachers go out, the staff takes over. Here's just such a joint effort between everybody. So, and it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time to plan those. So, you know, my hat's off to the teachers who continue to believe in that and the value of the time out there, because it takes work to plan those days. So, yeah. So thank you. But if ever you have, like, if a question comes up, email me or ask her, and I invite you all to come out anytime. Seeing some of you out there as chaperones and all, and it's fun. So
I was
Retreat
just gonna say, maybe then you can take a trip out there
let's do it. Okay, that would be fun.
with pizza from Jamie's.
oh man.
So, and selling cockroaches.
Sure, Wendy.
Everyone.
you want.
Okay, I guess somebody else.
Oh,
So hopefully it's good. Crystal Hitzman, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Math Curriculum Update. Hey, Math.
yeah.
It's, sorry, but your time is done, Lori.
That's my time. I have to say, one of the things that I think is beautiful about what Lori does for our district is we talk a lot about what the kids get or the kids learning at the forest. She really does truly teach our teachers too, and we're super lucky that we have her to help with that too. One of the things we do every fall is we do take the new teachers every fall out to the forest. Lori has team building and trivia and makes them walk the trails and does all the stuff. And we have found that it's a really great strategy. So teachers, those new teachers then feel comfortable bringing their students there for the first time when they then have the opportunity to do that. So that's more of the good stuff that she does. Okay, math. I wanted to provide a little bit of an update for veteran board members who kind of know we've started a journey at the secondary level around some math, PD, and some shifts, and also try to provide a little context for our newer members. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to try to give a little bit of both. So as many of you know, we are ending the third school year of, I'm calling it a journey that we've been on with our secondary math teachers, trying to make some really big shifts in how the teaching and learning and assessing and feedback to kids looks like in the math classrooms. So in the 22-23 school year, we started doing some professional development at the secondary level. We have included all of our 6th grade through 12th grade math teachers along the way with this. We haven't just focused on middle school or high school or kept them separate in these conversations. We felt it was really important that as a larger team, they do the PD and the learning together. So we started doing that in the 22-23 school year. Then last school year, we took it to the next level and we started having conversations around, based on current research, based on standards, based on what's going on in our state and guidance from DPI, where do we need to go with what we really believe students need in our math classrooms here in Superior? So it was a great experience when our 6th through 12th grade teachers came together and said, here are the things that based on that information we value. So it was things that I'm sure you heard before, making sure that we have a curriculum that spirals, a scope and sequence that clearly lays out what's taught at each grade level, et cetera. So throughout the 23-24 school year, that was worked on. And the culmination of that last school year was a committee came together. Every secondary math teacher who wanted to be part of it got to be part of it. And they did 2.5 days of work to evaluate resources and determine that we needed a new resource at our secondary level. So I came to you, I think it was May, June last year, and you approved Amplify Desmos as our new resource to use. So this school year, our 6th, 7th, 8th grade and Algebra 1 teachers have been implementing that resource. We intentionally waited to implement Geometry and Algebra 2 the next school year, which is where we'll be going in the fall. So throughout this school year, we've had 6th through 12th grade PD together again on all of our staff development days. We've also included our principals in all of those trainings and had separate trainings for our principals based on the observations that they're doing in the classroom with the teachers. We also provided every math PLC at the secondary level, that means every like course or grade level team of teachers, with a PD day prior to the start of each unit. So we do what's called unpack the unit, talk about what are the big outcomes for this unit, the standards that we're going to teach, what do the assessments look like, where are we headed here for this unit, this first time that our teachers are doing it. So we've had 19 and a half of those pullout days with our secondary math teachers to help them become familiar and confident before they started those units. So here are just a few pictures of some of those things. Our instructional coaches lead those PD sessions, and they do a great job modeling for our teachers. Our teachers don't just, math teachers don't just sit and look through their manual. They do the math, just like the kids are going to be doing, and the kinds of problems and standards that our students are going to do during those upcoming units. And our instructional coaches do a great job of that. You can see Erin Fezzi in one of those pictures. Our principals join those times too. So a little bit about next school year. As many of you know, math is an area of focus on some of our actions in our new strategic plan, and we'll be talking more about that in the future. So knowing that, we've got some really specific things named for next school year around observing our math teachers and giving them feedback and really helping to support their PLCs. So we will continue training both on our PD days this coming school year, especially for our Geometry and Algebra 2 teachers who will now be using a new resource also, and providing pullout days for them to unpack those units before they start them. Two things that I just wanted to make you aware of that we're adding into the mix is we're going to do some deeper PD now around Tier 2 instruction for our students that struggle, don't get it that first time and need some additional support, not outside of the classroom or not separate from their math class, but how does that happen in the classroom during Tier 1 core instruction as well? So that's going to be a big focus this fall. And then we also have been doing some work with our high school math department around the pathways of courses our students take at the secondary level. We're trying to shift to a model of really helping kids and families think about what their goals are after high school and how that can help you determine what math pathway is best for you. So I will be coming to you, actually teachers will be coming to you, they'll be doing most of the presenting in the fall to share that information with you, because that work will include us adding a few new math courses at our high school level to kind of fit in those pathways to fill in gaps that we maybe have been missing in mathematical modeling, data science. So I'm going to pause before I kind of share one last item. Do you have any questions?
Can you quickly just explain what Tier 1, 2, and 3 are?
Yes.
For everybody.
Tier 1 is the instruction that we give all students when a teacher is teaching a lesson. If there are students that need a little bit of support, they don't get it the first time, they need a little reteaching or maybe a little longer to get those concepts, we call the support we give them Tier 2 support. So when a teacher is teaching a lesson, they might have some small group activities and pull a small group into one, area of the classroom to do some extra practice and support with them because they need a little extra time or to have it retaught in a different way.
So when I was in the 7th grade math classes last week, there was a very hard lesson. It was on cross sections. It was very hard. And then the period ended and the kids had to leave. And so when they come back the next day, they're going to be on to a new lesson. And yet we still need to go back and kind of circle back to those kids that, I would say that are going to need some extra support and reteaching and helping them understand some of those concepts. So how do we create time and space for teachers to be able to do that? within that classroom structure. Yeah, because you can't just keep going through the lesson after lesson without being able to kind of circle back.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay, the last thing I just wanted to share, and there'll be much more to come on this in the next year or two, is that, I sometimes get the question, we're doing a lot at the secondary level for math. When are we going to be having some conversations about some shifts at the elementary level? I think I've probably said this to you before. Act 20, the literacy law in Wisconsin, forced us to put literacy at the forefront of PD and training and time that our elementary teachers needed to spend on learning new things. So we are letting our elementary teachers continue to get PD and support on that new literacy piece now and throughout next school year as they use their new elementary literacy resource benchmark advance. So plan is in the spring of 26, so a year from now, we are hopefully ready after some work this coming year to talk about shifts and maybe a different resource at our elementary level. But it got a little pause because of Act 20. So any questions? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
KCAS Director of Continuous Improvement and Assessment, giving us an update on state assessment updates and a strategic plan update.
Hello, everyone. Couple quick updates. I want to make sure that you are aware of some things that we've been taking care of lately. Did I do the state?
The other one.
Yeah, sorry. That's just a quick update. All of our state assessments have been completed. So we have some celebrations in terms of our test participation. And I think they're important to celebrate with all of you because of the hard work of our teachers and our staff and our principals in making sure that we test as many students as possible. We are held accountable for test participation from both the DPI at a state level and also federal accountability with a number of grants that we do receive. And I think it's important. I think it's really hard to look at a large amount of student assessment data in a formal way if you're not representing your whole student population. So I believe it's an important statistic in what we do and how we use the data. And I believe that our staff and our teachers, our principals take it very seriously. So I think we have some big celebrations to share with you tonight. So in terms of our 3 big state assessments, our forward exam, just as a recap, is our 3rd through 8th grade students in English, math, science, and social studies. ELA encompasses reading and writing. So all of those kids have those assessments. In addition, our 4th and 8th graders have science and social studies on top of that. And our 10th graders just take the social studies component of the forward exam. So we tested 97% of our kids on that assessment this year. And if you remove the 10th grade social studies component, which is a little clunky because they also have to take the pre-ACT, so you kind of are doing 2 test sessions for our 10th graders, we were pretty close to 99% of all of our kids tested. Those are the best statistics I've seen in the 6 years I've been in this job. I mean, we've been close. We've been in the 90s, 95 plus, but when you consider the thousands of kids we're testing, and with our attendance and some other, mental health concerns of our kids and families, it's impressive. And just because sometimes this is a confusing piece of the statistics, if parents choose to opt a student out of state testing, that still counts as if we didn't test the student. So we acknowledge that. We say you have the right as a parent to do that, but it impacts our test participation. So that is sometimes not understood in the way that it's calculated. And then the pre-ACT is our state assessment for 9th and 10th graders. And you can see there, tested 97% of our 9th and 10th graders. And our ACT, it is the actual ACT that is a college entrance exam, but in Wisconsin, it is our state test for 11th graders, which is different than a lot of states where it's still an option. And we have successfully tested over 96% of our kids on that assessment. Our juniors have received their scores on the ACT back. They come back relatively quickly with the online test version. Our pre-ACT score reports will be sent to guardians at the end of this month electronically, as well as our forward exam. This is the first year, I believe, in my history of 20 plus years in this district that the DPI is releasing forward exam data prior to the end of the school year. So it's a big celebration. And hopefully it will be a little more meaningful than in September when we're in a new school year and it's not as helpful. So I think a lot to celebrate just with the administration. On top of this, I know I've said this to those board members who've been here, but on top of our forward exam this spring, we've also had our assessments for Act 20, our early literacy assessments, which impact our third grade teachers and students in a big way because we were assessing the forward exam and the window with our Ames Web Act 20 assessments overlapped that window for our third graders. So they've had our third grade kids and teachers have had a lot of assessment management happening, and they've done very well. Any questions about just follow up from the state assessments? Today was the very first day of our AP exams at the high school, so I was able to proctor the AP biology exam this morning, about 45 kids. Worked super hard, it went great. So we are now in AP testing season. Sigford's at the high school is doing a very nice job coordinating. I said, I love the proctoring. I will do that all the time. Coordinating is all of the hard work. So that was just a little update on state testing. Strategic plan. I just wanted to catch our new board members up to speed as to where we've been this year. We've done a lot of work around our new strategic plan, and you have copies of that in front of you. Other members, I know I've shared this with you previously. I think it's important to just reflect a little bit on where we've been and catch you up to speed on kind of what's happened since we've chatted last. So we did a lot of work. The whole board was present this fall, and we worked. Our work was facilitated by consultant Joe Schrader. We worked through a pretty intense evening and full day process the first time around, looking at data, looking at a needs assessment. I think a lot of the things Crystal just shared around our math data, it was something that stood out to all of us. We had parents on our, in addition to board members, teachers from all levels and subject areas, which was helpful, principals at the table, directors at the table. I felt really pleased with the work of the team that came together. So we worked very hard and Joe helped us through the process with a number of steps in creating our new mission vision and then the pillars, things that we're aware of, but it helps to ground us in the work that is ahead for the next 5 years. So as we have come together, I just summarized a little bit of the work that we've done recently with all of our administrators and directors. Last Friday, we had, we kind of did a mini experience that those of you who were there experienced. I created a mini version of that for the administrators and principals so that they could experience a little of what we did looking at data, creating a SWOT analysis. So I'll show you a little bit, share a little of that and talk a little bit about what's next. So I think the piece of the puzzle around strategic plan, and Amy says this frequently, it can't just be words on a piece of paper. We have to make sure that we believe in the words and that they help us see a future for our school district when we have difficult decisions to make and when we have new ideas coming forward. And this 5-year plan hopefully is going to help ground us in what do we want to be known for in Superior. So this was the team that came together during the 24-25 school year. And I think we had a very nice representation. It's always helpful to have different perspectives brought to the table as you are processing data and opinions on where we need to go next. So we, as a team, and then as an admin team, we have worked through what are our strengths. This is a SWOT analysis. The acronym is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And again, this was facilitated by our consultant, but I think we had a lot of great conversation looking at district data and really trying to be concise around how clear. It's difficult to be clear. I think
So that clarity is really helpful when putting words on paper so that we all have the same understanding of what those words mean. So that was a lot of the work that we did in figuring out our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And from that, really creating the why do we exist and what purpose do we serve? That's really the goal of your mission as an organization. And our vision is really what we hope to be widely known for and respected for in the next 5 years. So I think a lot of power in the words we chose as a team around the mission and vision. We also, on the back of this, have indicated our commitments, and those are really, what do we stand for, what do we believe in, and how are we going to use these commitments to solve problems and make tough decisions as a district in the future. Those are the pillars. We did, use a lot of the work that had been a part of our previous strategic plan. And we were able to keep many things that already existed and make, update them, make them a little new. And I think the communication is important. So where are we now? So our important next steps are in progress. So this is a snapshot draft of the template we're using to create the district level scorecard. And the scorecard is really a tool for all of you to measure the current health of our district. I typically am here presenting different data points throughout the year, specific most often to student achievement. And our student achievement or student engagement growth and achievement pillar is the first pillar in the strategic plan, obviously similar to most districts. But this is really the system of accountability at the board level. So this is going to be a dashboard for you to monitor the health of our district. And so we will have metrics, and we're working through, we have some of this is very typical. We've got student assessment data. It's a pretty typical metric it's used for student achievement, engagement, and growth. But we're working through being even more specific around some of our family and community partnerships, our staff. We're using some survey data. We're working on creating some of those things within our action plan. So this is something that I'm going to be bringing in and have in front of you throughout the year. Obviously, a lot of these metrics aren't going to change by month. They're going to be annual objectives. They often, Joe referred to it kind of as like you're in your car and the dashboard in your car tells you all sorts of pieces of data. And I think this is something similar. We're not looking for anything to change necessarily in a certain way. We're just using what's in front of us to gauge our health of our district. So I'm hopeful that this will be a helpful tool for all of you as you kind of process through where we at as a district. And help with those decisions.
Yeah, can I just say one? So I think, one of the questions we asked Joe is how often and what capacity do we bring this information to the board? And so he kind of said, summer and probably January would be the time. So that annual calendar that I had developed that kind of talks through the different things we plan over the course of the year for school board, I've added that to our calendar. We'll need some baseline data going into the school year. So I anticipate kind of the first update will be in January of 26.
Yeah.
That will be able to kind of give you some updated data on our scorecard related to our different pillars. Like you said, we're still working on what are those data points that we're going to bring to the board. You guys have provided a lot of different examples. So we're kind of going through those to figure out what makes the most sense.
The committee in our work that we did this fall, we have a list of these would be important things to consider. So we've used that. And then of course, we also don't want 15 metrics in each category, and that's just too much. I think the committee also recommended a one-page scorecard was really nice to be able to look at. It was clear. We use lots of different district examples. And since then I've found other examples too to help kind of guide us. And I think this is a really nice, clear way to demonstrate that. We will have some baseline data from this year that we'll be able to use as a starting point, and other pieces we will have to create so that we have a real clarity in what we're measuring. For example, some survey questions where we're going to measure a specific question and the growth or the results of a specific question getting at what we want to make sure we're measuring. Questions about the scorecard, I feel like, before I move on from this slide.
Where will this live? It's like a district website or?
Yep, I anticipate that it will live on the district website. I think, again, it's not, part of me would love for something to be updated more frequently even, but that's not the purpose. It's a, twice a year, so it's an easy to update. I mean, I share that information with you typically twice a year anyway. It'll just be housed in one central location. So to me, that makes, I will share it here and then the updated version will go on the website as soon as I share it with you.
Also an action plan that's created at the method.
Question.
Yeah.
Good segue.
Here we go. So the action plan is called a continuous performance report card, a CPR card. It's really our internal document as directors and administrators to identify what do we need to do to monitor the health of our district. What are we doing to change or maybe not even change, but to maintain change, anything that we've identified in the scorecard. So the scorecard is your accountability tool. The CPR card, the action plan is the what and how, what defines the work that we're doing. And I think this is just a snapshot of kind of page 1 of our draft so far through the 30th of April. And most of this has identified work around math specifically, and many of those points were ones Crystal just shared with you. So we're really trying to be intentional about the alignment between our strategic plan, our action plan, and the metrics that you will see and the work that we do on a daily basis.
This has taken a lot of time in the background to try to get some of this. And Kate's led this work, also trying to lead this work during the middle of assessment season is challenging. So trying to kind of balance what's currently happening in our district, but still trying to get this ready for summer because we start the ground running on our planning come August.
So the goal here really will be this work, our strategic plan and the actions really need to align right to the school's continuous improvement plan. So it's like it makes sense. It flows together. So from this work, then I will redesign kind of the layout of our school continuous improvement plans. And in August, we work with our shared leadership teams with all of the principals for 2.5 days in August. And I will facilitate, Crystal and I will, and principals will direct their teams and work through creating their building continuous improvement plans as a direct result of what our strategic plan is. And the work we're doing at a district level will filter down to a building level.
It's just important to note this is brand new to us and so much more robust in a tight way for the board and administrators and principals and our staff, for everyone to hold ourselves accountable and see that progress, like also celebrate very clearly, because I do value the presentations and the data you always put together for us, Kate, but this will just be, it'll be in 1.0.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I talked about this a little bit, but basically our next steps, we need to finalize the actions and the scorecard. We've worked with principals. We brainstormed lots of great ideas last Friday, principals and directors, around kind of our system-wide rollout and making sure we know that the power is in our staff. All of us hold the power of making things happen. When we really focused on our graduation rates, that's a really great current example. It became personal to everyone regardless of their job role. And I think the power here is we have the same power here, so that if I can connect with this regardless of my role in the district and I see myself in how I'm impacting kids in our district, I think that is really, we need to do this well from the beginning. And I think that's a really important piece. I also think it's really important to not only engage with our staff, but our community, our families, and make sure that this is an important part of our community in terms of our strategic plan as a district and how we look to support future community members as they graduate from our school system.
I think Joe said it best too at the session when we were all together, that, you know, some of the highest functioning districts with the best success have a really strong strategic plan. And I think having a solid plan that everybody can buy into and be committed to is really powerful. And I was really excited about how our meeting went on Friday with our administrative team. I just felt like there was a lot of energy and inspiration on where we're going to be in 5 years, and a lot of, we're going to go from great to greater, I think is what that, or I said awesome to more awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you. You've
Yeah.
done a lot of work and we can see that. We appreciate that.
Tell Joe we said.
Yeah.
Sound like.
He remembers all of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I bet he does too.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
Probably does.
like trying to describe, and he's like, oh yeah, you know.
I know. I was like, that's impressive. Yeah.
It's good.
Very good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
All right, up next, Jen Willoughby, Director of the Child.
She's gonna be
Next
next
week. Next week.
And she's gonna speak next week. So that's it.
That's
Mr.
it.
President,
All right.
Stephen Olson.
No, Jay.
Stephen J. Olson.
Yeah. Thank you. Operations Committee, got that. Sarah's got that today.
No action items, no discussion items, informational items, introduction of new buildings and grounds director. Steve, say your last name for me. Guston. Perfect.
I'm Steve Guston, new building, new ground director.
Just give him the job so he gets to come and do it.
I guess there's a few things that we're having the works for this summer. We have the Bryant Window and Tuck Point project that's kicking off. Our kickoff meetings May 28th out of the school. We plan on having the project completed hopefully by mid-August, but late August. And another projects that we're working on is various entry doors. Different schools that have been corroded out through the salty weather over the winter times. And then obviously going out to the school floors and taking a good assessment of material condition of buildings out there.
We're glad to have you aboard. Our two new board members, we do what is called a power clap. In fact, some of you in the audience know it. On three, you know what it is. 1, 2, 3.
Good job, Steve.
Welcome.
See.
One of the things that you may not even know this yet, but one of the things that I know that we've talked about at a board level is really trying to articulate our long-range facility plan in a simplified way that we're able to kind of put some of that information on our website and use to be able to communicate with the community. So when we're doing things like we're doing this summer with Bryant, people understand it's part of a long-term plan. So I don't know if you know that yet, but that's something we'll be working on, hopefully in the months to come with some reps from our facilities committee to try to put something together that's meaningful to our community and our board. So, yeah.
Ella, I have people asking about turf. What's our ETA in the future for that?
I'll just met Steve tonight too.
Well, we're at 10 years, I believe, right? Or is it a little longer, 12?
And I thought we had funding set aside for that.
So yeah, so last year with the donation from NBC, that's been invested in, right?
Dave, right?
No, so there's a large chunk of that's there. Dave and I just met last week to talk about that too, but yeah, and working with the other David to try to do that too. We had somebody that knew somebody who knew somebody came up and spoke with us the other 2 weeks ago. Carrie Pallas, who works full time on the turf when it's not full of snow. He does really, really great work. Anytime everybody's come, they say, he's gotten us multiple years more than what it should be for the usage of it right now. Is it wearing? Yes, it's used. We'll get a little less usage now that EWS has their own field of grown adults playing on it, so that could help us. Are there worn spots that are going to eventually become unsafe in that we're tackling kids or falling kids and don't have it proper there? Yes, there will be eventually, just because we're using it. So, but it is something that we want to make sure that we really look at some years down. But I don't know. Is it safe for the current spring and the upcoming fall? Absolutely. And there are some donations that we've gotten in the past few years for scoreboard spots that we've taken that money for this in between of complete resurfacing. So is there stuff this summer we could do kind of like a reconditioning of the field? Yes. So we'll try to do that as much as we can. But that's a good question. That takes a lot more planning and budgeting and stuff that we talk about it a lot. but-
Yeah, and it's not good timing. I know it's not, but when I'm thinking about facilities and just trying to always prioritize and think long term about where do our funds need to be prioritized and then how can we be mindful of those features?
It's on our radar, and I think the NBC donation has been a huge, obviously, huge asset that we'll be needing to support. Yeah.
And we talked a lot of working with David Coy and our department is one that we're able to go to those sponsors and the businesses in this community that want and need their names out there. So we'll try as hard as we can to try to get as much of that as possible so that the tuck point, whatever that is, and the doors and all that, the roofs of buildings and priorities that can take that money, unless we want to start putting branding on top of the roofs.
Blaine's ball.
Yeah, so we'll work hard. We'll continue to do that because there are businesses that are continuing to reach out. When is that scoreboard going to be ready? When can I put my name on the field? So we're gonna do that as much as possible.
So is there a cost analysis put together yet of what replacement of the turf on,
Because it's changed.
We had one a couple years ago, this guy that just came up to kind of look and talk about the reconditioning of the turf and then the future, he could give I get emails weekly about, hey, it's coming up, can we come give you a quote? So it's hard now because if it's 3 years down the road, we know you could add another tier probably.
Yeah.
So.
But we did have
Is it-
somebody give us an estimate a couple years ago.
was it the same vendor that we used in the first place, or is it another vendor? And have we reached out to a couple of the other communities that have just put turf in? I guess I am a little concerned about it and stuff, because I do not want our school district to get in the same situation that a school district just to the east of us got into with the wear and tear on their particular field. So.
This is because of that NBC, and I'll be the one that Ella and I talked about it quite a bit. Is that we have that NBC donation that's sitting there, so we have the ability to redo that field, but that NBC donation is making interest for us right now.
Sure.
And then we use that money somewhere else, and $1 million makes decent amount of interest when you're sitting out there. It's how we maximize it, and then it's not just the football field, but we have to take into consideration all the other fields that are out there.
Exactly.
And that NBC donation that's 15 years. We're not going to touch anymore. There's not going to be another donation like that. And we, as a district, really lucked out that we pulled in that large sum of money. So it's, in my mind, we have to maximize that field as long as we can, and then create that plan of when we're going to do that transition over. But also on vendors, because I know there's been discussion that we might not want the same field. Like, I guess there's different types of fake field out there that
are now.
We might want to use a different type of. So that's when we get to that point, it's going to be a big evaluation, and that's I've already spoken with Ellen as created a long-term facilities plan just for that complex itself. And also one thing Ellen and I spoke last week was we rent that facility. We rent a bunch of stuff out. We rent our fields out. We rent our gyms out. What I want to do, or we're going to start doing next year, is we're going to take a percentage of that rental fees that come in, and that's going to get reinvested into our facilities.
But was it the original plan that any rental facility, any outside agency, teams, whatever, renting those outdoor facilities, that their payment was supposed to go into a set fund
For that purpose of.
for that purpose of refurbishing? Now, I know that you two were not involved back then on that, but I think we need to look.
We've had those conversations a couple times, yeah.
Where is it going?
I don't, my understanding is it's going into a capital fund to be able to be able, yeah, what am I trying to say? To replace it. So we can, those are some specific questions we might have to double check on, but this is not a new conversation. I think it might be newer for you, but I can remember previous conversations around this.
Anything else?
Welcome to operation.
Steven, that concludes the operations report.
Don't think you're off the hook because you're gonna do the Negotiations Committee.
All right, one action item, administration recommends approval of the May 2025 new hires and separations report. Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the 2025 new hires and separations report. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No discussion items, no informational items, and does anyone else have any matters to be brought before the committee? No, that concludes that report as well.
Thank you. Our next up is the Legislative Committee.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
Laura.
President. I have 0 action items, 0 discussion items, but I do have 1 informational item, which is the Joint Finance Committee update from Dr. Amy Starzecki, our district administrator, and potentially Nick Olson, who also attended.
Yeah, so I just thought it would be good to give a update in open session, just letting folks know that I did have an opportunity to testify on Monday last week. And then I provided written testimony as well. I think, you know, we've really tried to encourage staff in our community to voice their concern, recognizing that we know that property taxes are going to go up next winter because we're going to receive less aid, less equalization aid. And so being able to talk to the people who make those decisions, I think directly is very important. So I don't know, do you have any thoughts, or, I mean, maybe it was your first time. What was your thoughts or experience?
There's a lot of asks for money, that's for sure, but the people there from the various school districts, it was a lot about special education funding.
Yeah.
That was the main topic, and there was.
The number 1 topic was K-12 education. That was the number 1 thing.
For sure, that was
Yeah.
most of the speakers. I did not get to testify, I didn't get there early enough.
Yeah.
I believe, but it was very informational, and I think very informative for everybody on that Joint Finance Committee.
Seeing the process, I think, is interesting.
Yeah, good.
I'm aware of former board members writing. One board member wrote as a parent and also as a board member. I've had the opportunity to write a couple letters, one directly to our representative. I'm not always impressed with getting back a canned letter, but know that that's probably part of the process on a response back, but. Okay.
Yeah, so any other matters brought before the committee by board members? I guess just, I want to say, please write, please call, just flood the phones. This is really not looking good for public education, and I'm very, very worried about all students in school districts. And I have nothing else for you. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Budget Insurance, Nick Olson.
Last but not least, right? David?
Boom, boom.
Couple action items. Gifts, grants, and bequests. Administration recommends approval to accept gifts, grants, and bequests received in April 2025. Motion to approve.
Second. Wonderful.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Thank you to everybody on that list. Everybody appreciates. Motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, motion carries. Our CISA 12 shared services contract, administration recommends approval of the 2025-26 shared services contract with CISA 12 in the amount of $100,800. Geez. You can do it. I can do it. $101,892.94. The cost for 24-25 was $151,889.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just that the reduction from one year to the other is a result of a reduction in special education services required.
Just in needs, basically.
Needs have changed.
Yeah. Okay. No discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I have no discussion items. And informational items, update on student recruitment efforts.
You start, you're gonna take it? Go for it.
Sure. All right. So, for when we're looking at the budget, of course, it comes down to how much money is the state going to give us per kid and how do we get more money or how do we get more kids? At the beginning, we looked at, what are the options we have out there? One of the ideas that was floated out there was to become an online school and do an online charter school. After we did more research, that isn't a viable way. One thing that I was told I brought in some consultants and they said, what makes you better than all the schools that have been doing this for 15 years? You're going to invest a whole lot of money to try and be just as good as somebody else. And nobody else is going to help you because you're going to be their competitors. It's not like you can go and ask Sun Prairie, how do you do this? Because Sun Prairie is going to say, that's it. So we kind of look in a different direction. And then the other side of it
Note two is when Crystal and I had a meeting with DPI about this, we would have to create a whole nother, basically it's creating a whole nother school district where you have to adopt another school board. And like Dave said, I mean, there's a significant investment that would need to be incurred on the front end of this. You wouldn't make money because you'd need to do all the planning and the work on the front end of this. So we had some meetings with DPI to kind of talk through what this would look like from our end.
So then the other one, how do you bring in more kids? You have, our bordering schools are Solon and Maple. Those are small rural schools. There just isn't a lot of kids to pull, to siphon off. You have Duluth, but of course they can't cross the border. So we can't take those kids from Duluth. If we could pull kids from Duluth, we'd be in a much different situation just because of the way that the Superior School District is.
And we can't drop revenue from kids who don't live in our state. So that's just kind of a state rule.
So then it's how else do you get more kids? Well, the way you get more kids is let's focus on the kids that are opening out on us and those students that are homeschooled or private schools and how can we focus on that? So with the help of David Coy, Casey Smith, we got together, we created a flyer that we're sending out to all those students out there saying, hey, come and look what Superior has to offer. I don't know if we finalize what our slogan is going to be, but just something where it's like, hey, we're, a big school district, a small district, we really need to push the assets and the resources that we have here that other schools districts don't. The school forest is one of those. Our college credit courses that we offer to students, our sports complex, everything like that to say, hey, you should come to this school.
Clubs and activities.
Start manufacturing.
Going.
So, and we sent those letters. I think we got some feedback already from people saying, hey, this is great. It's an open invitation to come and just tour our school. Come and have a lunch. Come and sit in the class and come and see what it is about.
And a letter was drafted from myself and the principal with the intent that they reach out to the principal and they schedule a tour with that principal and come and see our facilities and come into the building. So we tried to personalize it, is what I'm trying to say. It wasn't just a form letter. We all signed it. We all sent it from our different schools.
So we are going to make that push and I hope we do see a difference on it, but it's going to be a long journey to get there. We're going to get people that do, maybe we get a couple this year, then we use them as, you provide some input on this. And I think we do that with a student, somebody that transfers from a private school into our school and say, hey, what's your experience been? And I said, it's been great. I think the big thing we gotta get past is the stigma. If you talk to people out there and they've never been in the middle school, I mean, they think it's a prison yard out there.
How about that?
Amazing. I might be extreme, but so I think that's the big focus that we have going forward. Is trying to figure out how we can bring those kids back that left and recruit those other kids to say, look at this. You can come here, you can take the AP courses test right now. If you get a 4 on it, then you can start your college career as a sophomore, which, I like to tell the kids, if you're a sophomore when you go to college, you get to pick a dorm room a lot better than what was freshmen. So you got to sell the kids that then sell parents.
The other thing I just wanted to mention about the virtual option. So we met also with our virtual online coordinator and kind of talked through what this would look like. We all kind of decided collectively it wasn't the right time to do that work, but we did talk about the number of students who are leaving us that are our students where we don't need to create a charter school to educate them online. How do we bring those students back into our school district if they're currently accessing online services through other platforms or other school districts? So that's on our radar. We have meetings still coming up this spring to kind of work with her and kind of talk through how we're going to engage and reach out to those families in particular. The other thing is working with David Coy. We've been trying to also create a small budget just to kind of get word out a little bit better, more intentional this year, and getting the enrollment process in front of all of our families. So you might see some stuff at Super One or things like that. Just trying to be more intentional this year than we have in the past about how do we get the word out that it's an option to enroll here, and we do great work. So on
Super One today, they are airing. So there's 3 TVs right in front of the checkout area. You'll see it happen. And I come up about once a month, once a minute. So you'll be seeing us a lot.
Nice.
Oh, we're not doing a billboard.
no, we're not.
I've seen other things.
Yeah, I have. We did look at it though.
Yeah, we did look at it.
Pricey, no way.
Dave, when did those letters go out?
About a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? Health insurance? 4.3%?
Health insurance, yeah, 4.3. So our health insurance is going up 4.3%. I wanted a lower number. Their original offer was 8 something. Our cap was 9.5. So this came down quite a bit. It's just the unfortunate world that we live in health insurance. That 4.3 is a really good percentage, but 4.3 means in 14 years our insurance will double. That's just unsustainable. The other part about it is deductible. The deductible went up for $100 for a single and $200 for family. Nothing we can control. That's the IRS that came in and said, this is how much it's going up. You're going to have a high deductible HSA plan that the employer contributes to, then this is the minimum it needs to be. We actually met with Medica, Marsh McLennan, who's our broker, and Essentia, and then the SFT union last week to try and figure out how we can get better coverage. I think it was a good meeting. I think it's nice that we had Medica there. We kind of put them on the spot. So I think these are the issues we're running into. We really need to figure out how we can make this better. I know, I don't like to compare us to other districts or anything, but there's a district that's near us that is going to make a change as well. And this is kind of the way that school districts are going. But unfortunately, we could not get a rate cap for next year, and that's one thing I really pushed hard. So it is up in the air what's going to happen next year on that rate cap, but that just puts more onus on me, unfortunately, to figure out if there's other solutions that are out there. Hopefully Medicaid, so Medica is a long-term plan and long-term partner, but we have to make sure we keep our options open. So that's something we'll have to look again early into the school year next year.
Oh, they didn't shop it out at all. They just worked with Medica then.
Yep. So what usually happens is you go 2 years at a time. If you become a company that shops out all the time, you don't get a very good rate. When you go 2 years, what you see a lot is insurance company buy it. They come in with a really low rate that first year. They raise you up a little bit the second year, and that third year is when you go make sure that they're not going to come back with a monumental increase. When you look at districts out there, I looked at some, they were hitting at 25%, 30% increase in healthcare. And I looked at them like, how are you going to pay this? And they said, we have no idea.
Okay. Fund 10 revenue and expenditure. I didn't see anything glaring. Do you have any?
No, so the only thing that's that happened, July 1 is when I want to change up this report. And I've already created the report, but I want to be consistent throughout the year. So come July 1, I want to change up the report. The plan is to get it to the finance committee, the small group on the board, so they can look at it, provide their input. I just didn't want to change something in the middle of the year, but it's going to include a fiscal year to date. So from the year prior, so you can go in and say like, hey, we spent right around that money. The hard part is those numbers get to be so big that if somebody's just looking at the difference, and, oh my God, that's $100,000 difference. What are you doing? And then you go back and the percentage is 1%. Or when the payrolls, you hit an extra payroll in the month of April, the number's going to inflate because all of a sudden you got an extra $2 million in there. So it's just stuff.
I think that'll be good though, just give you a sense of what's.
This is a very old report we've been doing time. And when David's first started, I said, when you're ready, I think we should kind of talk about refreshing.
You ready?
Yeah, well, I mean, I use the report because like you said, that report doesn't do much for me. I can't see what's going on. I'm just looking, especially at the beginning of the year, that's big tools.
I don't have anything else, so that concludes my report, Steve.
Very good. Thank you very much. Long meeting with a lot of information. We will meet next Monday, May 12th. Right now, we're scheduled for 5 p.m. That concludes tonight's meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
For a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
So the reports in a row.
Get it, Steve.